Thank you for joining me. My name is Jenna Fortinsky, and welcome to my podcast, Simply Jenna. I am a registered psychologist and owner of Simply Counseling Services, a private counseling group in Calgary, Alberta. In working with my clients, I have noticed that I offer something different. The difference is simplicity, something different. The difference is simplicity and balance. I want to share that with you using this platform. Join me as we discover together how to keep it simple. Hi everyone. Here we are, our second episode. I'm so excited to be here.
Or two.
Yes, we did. How are you doing, Nikki?
I'm doing really good this week. I think it was exciting to go on that venture of getting our first episode done.
Yes.
It's done, it's dusted, it's sitting there. Please take a listen to it. And also just, reflecting on the fact that I think had a really good episode, and we got a lot of engagement from it, right?
Yes. Yes, we did. I know. I'm very excited. I can't believe that we're actually doing this. I'm excited about it, and I think that this is a big step for both of us. Yes. For people that know us personally,
Mm-hmm.
that we're doing this. And yeah, we did get a lot of engagement. We actually got some submissions for topic suggestions for the podcast, which is exciting.
Very exciting.
And people are sharing it. So I'm very excited about that. I'm glad to see that we have so much support. So it makes it easy. So it's been a good week for you.
Yep. And for you?
It's been a good week. It's been a busy week.
Yeah.
We are busy in the private practice, which is great. So I've been seeing clients, been getting these podcasts together to put them out. And so it's good. And with everything with COVID, of course, that's always the black cloud that's hanging over us.
Yep.
But I'm glad to see that specifically in Calgary that some of the restrictions have been lifted for small businesses, which is great.
Yeah.
And that hopefully we're starting to get a handle on the numbers that are appearing in Alberta. So a very small light on the horizon.
And it's almost like you can feel, I don't know if you get this sense, but you can feel the overall mood of the city shifting, right? With the numbers going down, with the restrictions being lifted. Yes. You see this sort of change in people and their general attitudes. It's amazing how much of a difference that actually makes. And it gives you something to look forward to, hopefully.
Yes. I can see it in the grocery store.
Yes, exactly. I was just going to say, I don't go many places, but the places that I do go, I see it. So.
Yes.
And so today we wanted to chat about a topic that we started to talk about last week, and we didn't really get into the details of it yet, but we touched a little bit on balance, and we wanted to bring that forward for this episode for us to really dive into, to get into the meat of it and to understand what it is. So let's start with what it is. So do you want to tell us what you think balance means to you?
I really liked last week.
Balance means to you.
I really liked last week. I do want to point out that last week off recording, you had said this unicorn of balance, and then I had said it at the last part of the episode last time, and I really liked that you said that, because a unicorn is something that we're always looking for but doesn't really exist. Totally. Right? And so for balance, I think that's a good way to kind of introduce it, is that I think everybody's on this constant search of balance. And trying to find it in their life and trying to find, how it fits for them, right? So for me, balance means a little bit of everything, but not a lot of anything.
Okay. That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And why is that so hard? Like, why do we struggle with that so much?
I think that we have a lot, especially for like our generation and
say our generation, you mean... Which generation is that?
I don't know the real name of it. What is it? Are we Generation Z or?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think for our generation and the generations that are, behind us, I guess, we are in of everything. Like we've got it coming at us in all shapes and forms, right? So it's an overstimulation all the time. So when we talk about balance and what balance could mean and how balance fits into a person's life, where do you even start?
Right. Yeah.
Because we're getting it at all angles all the time. So I think it is hard, and I think it is a tall ask because we have so much information coming at us at all the time that we don't even know where to start. So we kind of just go with whatever is easy and just consume ourselves with that first.
And so are we saying balance in terms of balance in my work life, balance in my personal life, balance with what I'm eating, balance with making sure like work-life balance, or what are we talking about?
So I like that you specifically asked about all those areas because I think it's nice that we separate out all those areas.
Right.
I don't think that there is an overarching balance for everything.
Okay.
I think that we do need to separate it out.
Okay.
And I think that once we start to look at the different areas of our life and we start to evaluate, okay, so how do I get balance in my work life? How do I get balance in my personal life?
Okay.
How do I get balance things out? Then it becomes easier to start to tackle. So I think when people probably heard us mention this idea of the unicorn of balance, we're talking about this overarching balance, which is very, very scary.
Right.
And I don't really think that is attainable either.
And that was going to be one of my questions for you is balance really possible? Or is it something, it's one of those concepts that you're always on the journey of, like it's an ever learning journey of understanding and reflecting on how it fits into your life. So it's not a state, right? It's not something that you reach. It's something that you're always working towards, right? It's not something that you reach. It's something that you're always working towards.
Yes. And that's a perfect way to capture it, is that because our lives are changing so fast in the day and age that we live now, and everything is disposable, everything is changing so quickly that you do have to adapt, and it really is a daily effort to achieve balance just for that day. I don't think that you can plan for balance for the next month or the next 2 months. Things are always changing, and especially now in a pandemic, right? We don't know what the next announcement is going to be. We don't know how it's going to impact us. The restriction, if we get sick, or if a family member gets sick. So I think it's really about how do we break it down and look at something that's attainable, like we talked about in the last episode, which means we do need to look at a daily effort of how do I make this day balanced.
Okay. So what does that actually look?
Good question. I think that it's really important for people to take some time throughout their morning routine, if it means that you're still laying in bed or you're in your shower, to figure out what it is that you need to get done for that day and how you can balance what you need to get done with what you want to get done.
And so what about then, let's throw out a situation, and let's say that it is a family of 4. So there's 2 children and the parents of the children, and the children have gone back to school and the parents are working from home full time. We hear a lot about work-life balance, like make sure you have that work-life balance. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And how do you fit that piece together with what you just talked about?
Yeah. And I'm happy you're asking that specific question, because I think we are all on this quest to fulfill what media is telling us that we should fulfill. And like what our friends are saying and what we're seeing on Facebook and Instagram and all those wonderful places. And we're on this constant quest to fulfill those requests, right?
And expectations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I really want to highlight that it is so important for us to really look at what we want for ourselves. So not based on what we see on the media or internet or whatever it is, social media sites, but to really look at yourself and your own situation and fit for you. And that's where balance is achieved.
Okay.
When we're on this constant search to, I see so-and-so doing this with her kids all day long and her kids are able to do this, or I see him doing all these workouts and, I wish I could do that too. we're really comparing ourselves,
Right.
instead of saying, this is what's important to me. So it is more important to me to sit down and have breakfast with my kids instead of doing a 30-minute workout first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And, maybe for my friend, it might be their 30-minute workout and then, figure out when they're going to have breakfast with their kids, or maybe have lunch with their kids instead. So the pursuit of finding balance is really about what's important to you first. So taking the time to invest in yourself and say, what is important to me, and how do I structure my day that I can achieve what's important to me?
That makes a lot of sense. And the thing that pops up in my head now is thinking about what happens if you are in a relationship with somebody, what if your values aren't the same? What if my priorities for that day or for trying to set up my balance is going to look different from my partner's? How do you sort of work around that, or work with that, I guess?
And that's so, yes, working with,
Right.
Always working with. So I don't expect to have the exact same values as my partner. And I think that we really need to be able to advocate for our own values and advocate for what's important to us, so that our partner and we can have a conversation about what's important to get done for that day, and find ways to, really lean on each other and have communication around what's important to me that I need to achieve for this day. And hopefully through, healthy communication and an understanding and pre-planning, that we can both achieve what we want out of every day.
Okay. Yeah, I think it definitely highlights the critical importance of having that communication piece and within your relationship.
Yeah.
And there's also, I think, another level of challenge there around children, because children, there's priorities and values that come with having children as well. So balance really comes into so many different parts of it, right? Because there's a balance around for yourself. There's a balance with your partner if you have one. There's a balance for your children. There's a balance for your family as a whole.
Yep.
So there's so many pieces that are sort of a part of that puzzle.
Yeah, and I think when you, and I like that you're saying that way, because I think that's the way a lot of people think, is that there's so many, and it can be so overwhelming and so confused and so consuming.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be. So
Tell me how then. Give me the unicorn answer that we're looking for.
Yes. So the unicorn is really in keeping it simple.
Okay.
And that's why I live and breathe this philosophy. And so that looks like, okay, so for today, I know I have to work for 8 hours. I know I've got, 4 hours plus or minus with my kids. And then I've got, the time till I go to bed, right? And I've got, the time till I go to bed, right? Depending on what age your kids are, of course, that's always a factor. But for a majority of the population, maybe that's what their day looks like. So how do you prioritize your time within those time constraints, and prioritize what's important to you within those time constraints, right? And if that means looking at each part of your day and sectioning off each part of your day and say, I need to make a balance in my work. I know I need to look at my emails. I know I need to attend these meetings. I know I need to get back to these people, make these phone calls. This is what's most important to me, and that's what I'm going to tackle first. Your work day is over. Okay, so this is what's important to me. I need to maybe roll around on the floor with my kids for a couple hours. I need to make dinner, and then we need to have a family dinner together. I need to spend time with the kids after dinner. That's what's important to me. That's what I'm going to do. So balance is achieved in planning.
That speaks to my heart.
Yes.
I'm a firm believer in planning on a personal note.
Yes.
But it makes a lot of sense. It sounds like you're getting into like the real nitty gritty of looking at your day. But it works from the perspective of trying to divvy up that little bit of time, those awake hours that we have during the day, how we divvy those up and make them fit with our overall values, as you've been talking about.
That's right. And so I guess like a good way to say the opposite is that it's easy to get lost in the chaos. And it seems like days just like, pass us by. I've lost track of time. I don't even know what day it is. And how could it already be the end of January? We're already starting a new year. So if we take the approach of being purposeful and planning, then things become much more clear and much more achievable and attainable. And we're able to, tackle the things on our list and be able to spend time where we want to spend time.
Yeah, it makes it more efficient in a sense, right? Because now you're being purposeful about what you're doing with the time that you have.
Yeah.
And it sure makes you question what is actually important in that day. It really makes you reflect on that and think about what, I have this amount of time now. What am I really going to use it for?
Yeah. And I think that's what I wanted to highlight for this episode is, time. Is that we do have these, yes, the days go by fast, but we do have these opportunities to spend good quality time doing the things that we want to do. And we can make it work. And, if it means that you need to wake up an extra half hour early because you need to get your workout done, then that's what you need to do. If it's important to you, you'll make it happen. Then that's what you need to do. If it's important to you, you'll make it happen, right? If you, at the end of your workday, it's important to you to, like I said, roll around on the floor with your kids for a half hour before you start dinner, then, make that a priority and make it happen, right? It doesn't mean that you're, setting everything else aside.
It especially now with where we are with the pandemic, because that has totally thrown everything else off, right? So that I think is really critical, because the days are sort of, they're melding together and every day is looking the same. So, and I think we're a little bit, and I'm speaking in a general sense, but we're a little bit losing focus on that balance piece.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it is, like I said, you can get lost in that chaos, right? So if you invest the time first thing in the morning or even the night before you go to bed and say, okay, what do I need to get done tomorrow? What's to get done? And kind of create 2 different lists, right? And start your day knowing that those lists are fresh in your mind, and hopefully you can get your criticals done. And if your nice twos get done, great. If they don't, then shift them off to the next day. It's not a big deal. And like I said in the last episode, please, every day is a battle and every day has its own battle. So if you have criticals on your list that aren't getting done, it's okay. Try again the next day. It's a fresh day. It's a fresh start. It's a chance to give it a go. If you don't, that's okay. Give yourself a pat on the back for what you did get done, and the next day continues.
So I think that's a really good point, and I'm glad that you keep reminding us about this idea of sort of being easy on ourselves, because it's been a really tough year. Yes. And we're moving into another tough year, probably for a little while anyway. So it's good. So it's good to have that reminder, I think, on a weekly basis. So hopefully you'll keep us in check for that.
Yes.
So I do want to do just a quick recap of some of the things that we talked about today. In our episode. So we started off by sort of introducing balance as this unicorn concept. It's this thing that, is, even we all know that, and we all talk about it on a constant basis. And then we had this conversation around what balance actually is. And your definition is around what is important to you is what balance ultimately is. And in terms of looking at it from a practical perspective and how we actually implement it, on a daily basis is by looking at each day and making that decision once the day rolls around. And that part of that decision making is requires you to give some thought to what are your values, and what's important to you and what your priorities are. And then finally, of course, like we always say, is the importance of keeping it simple.
Yes.
And how we keep it simple in this case is by making, possibly making our day into sections of time that we know we can dedicate to certain activities throughout the day. So did that kind of capture the meat of our conversation, the content of our conversation?
Everything really nicely. So things that I want to highlight for sure is to be sure that we're really looking at our own values and what's important to us and not comparing. And then the other thing is I always want to highlight, and you'll hear this every time, is to just be easy on yourself. So to really keep your expectations in check and to make sure that you're setting goals that are attainable for yourself and seeing that little bit of success to keep the momentum going. So thank you for providing that amazing summary of the episode. Next week, I am so looking forward to our topic of expectations in a relationship.
Ooh, that'll be a good one.
Yes. So this has come up for me a few times in private practice, even within the last few weeks. So I think that we really can tackle this and start to really look at what are people's relationship and how it's impacting relationships right now during a pandemic.
Okay, that'll be a really interesting one. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. So I'm very excited for that. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We would like to share a quote before we go. We found one that we feel fits very closely with what Kingsford. She says, "Balance is not something you find, it's something you create." Thank you for listening to this episode. I wanted to share some important information before we let you go. While this podcast will give you strategies to use in your life, it is certainly not a replacement for attending therapy or seeking your own support. There will always be limits to what we can do on our own when it comes to mental health. And while we can give you tools and strategies, we know that they will not always work for everyone. There is value in telling your story and being heard. If you have tried the strategies we discussed and you're still feeling stuck, please reach out to us at Simply Counseling Services. Visit our website at www.simplycounselingservices.com for the services we offer and to learn about the other services that are free. You can also submit your well. Thank you again for joining us, and we are looking forward to our next time together. Take care of yourself.